That's my favorite day of the week. Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for joining me as always. It is much appreciated. And man, oh man, talk about appreciation. We have to appreciate what we saw last night from the Warriors and the Celtics. I was talking to JJ and Chris in the office before the show, and that game was just bananas. That game was bananas. You had the third quarter where the Warriors played unbelievable. The Celtics played like crap. You had the fourth quarter. The Celtics played unbelievable. The Warriors played like crap. There were stretches in between where both teams played at a very, very high level. There was that 3 to 4 minute stretch in the fourth quarter where it was like a heavyweight fight before the Celtics went on that 17-0 run. Right before that happened, there was 3 to 4 minutes, both teams making shots, just throwing haymakers at each other. I mean, that was just an unbelievable basketball game to witness. And I really believe that game last night, you know when things change in the fourth quarter? People will sit there, they'll talk about Derek White, they'll talk about Al Horford, they'll talk about Marcus Smart. We'll get to all of that throughout this show. But when this game changed, when the Celtics felt like they actually had a chance to win in San Francisco, right? On the road, down by double digits. The moment was when Jaylen Brown took over. There was a 2 to 3 minute stretch in the fourth quarter. It was do or die for the Celtics. The Warriors had a chance to put their foot on their throat and end that puppy. And Jaylen Brown came down, knocked down a shot. He came down again, knocked down a three. Then he drove. He hit the paint. He threw up a lob for a dunk to Robert Williams. That stretch right there gave the Celtics hope, gave the Celtics energy, and flipped that game. Flipped that game in the fourth quarter, and then we saw what happened after that. That stretch by Jaylen Brown was the biggest stretch, the key stretch of that game. Here was Brown after the win.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it at halftime. We knew they were going to come out in the third quarter, and they did. They came out great. But in those moments, you know, once you realize that you allowed somebody to do something that you didn't want them to. Once you realize that either you can go two ways, you can let it snowball, or you can, you know, play to the next play and figure things out. And we just kept playing. We just kept figuring it out. We kept playing basketball, and we found a way to win.
All right, so here's the thing. We'll talk about White. We'll talk about Horford. We'll talk about Smart, because everybody's talking about those three guys today. They shot 15 of 23 from three-point land. That's crazy. It's crazy that those three guys shot collectively 15 of 23 from distance. Now, I'll say this, and I'll talk more about this specifically later on in the show. I don't think Horford deserves to be lumped in with White and Smart. I understand talking about White and talking about Smart. Both guys have not shot the basketball well this season. Both guys have not necessarily shot the basketball well consistently in the postseason. That is all fair game. But I would not lump Al Horford in with those other two guys. Horford has shot it well this postseason, and Horford has shot it well ever since the Celtics turned their regular season around in January. So I don't think it's fair to just say, oh, Horford, White, and Smart shot 15 of 23, because Horford can shoot. Horford has shot his entire career. Now, the issue for Golden State, their offense collapsed in the fourth quarter, folks. It's as simple as that. We want to focus on this idea of Smart and White and Horford hitting big shots, and that's true. But again, before that 17-zip run by the Celtics, it was a heavyweight fight. You want to know why? Because the Warriors were making shots. The Warriors had a double-digit lead. That game should have been over. That game would have been over if they made shots. The first few minutes of the fourth quarter, they went scoreless without Steph Curry. They put Curry in the game. There was that back and forth, as I mentioned, the heavyweight fight. And then later on in the fourth quarter, there was a 5-minute stretch where Golden State didn't get a bucket. 5-minute stretch. Even if the Celtics weren't shooting ridiculous, they still had a great chance to win that basketball game because Golden State couldn't score. When you go 5 minutes in a fourth quarter without scoring a bucket of an NBA Finals game, especially when you're the home team, when you have a 5-minute stretch, and when you combine the first couple minutes of the quarter, they spent 7 minutes out of 12 fourth quarter minutes without scoring a single bucket. That's very hard to do. I know the Celtics defense is very good, but that is very hard to do. Going 7 minutes of that fourth quarter without scoring a point from the field. That's how you lost the game. That's what happened. Your offense went off a cliff. Here was Klay Thompson in the postgame.
I think we had some costly turnovers. I mean, I missed a couple great looks, and then they got some great looks from three. That kind of blew the lid open for them. And you go 51% on 41 shots from the perimeter. It's hard to beat a team that way.
All right. Nick Cattle Show here on a Friday, Sports 1140 KHTK, talking about the Boston Celtics, Golden State Warriors last night, game 1 of the finals. Celtics first team in NBA history to win a finals game by double digits after trailing by double digits entering into the fourth quarter. That's according to ESPN stats and info. So how did they do it? Yes, Golden State did not play well offensively. The Celtics played incredible offensively. But how did it all kind of change aside from that Jaylen Brown 3 to 4 minute stretch or 2 to 3 minute stretch? The Celtics changed what they were doing. Defensively, they changed what they were doing. If you listened to the show yesterday, one of the questions I had about the Celtics' defensive approach, we had John Corrales join us from Boston Sports Journal and, of course, the Locked On Celtics podcast yesterday. One of the questions I asked John was how would the Celtics approach the Warriors defensively? Because this Celtics team switched more than any other team in the NBA. They constantly switch the pick and roll. They constantly switch handoffs, all those things, right? But against Milwaukee and against Miami, the Celtics played drop coverage. Simple explanation, description of what that is. Dropped coverage is when you have your big men drop into the paint. They don't come up on the three-point line and take airspace away and contest shots. They drop back off the pick and roll, pick and pop, dribble handoff. They drop back and give more space to the shooter to try to shut down the driving lanes. That's what the Celtics did against the Bucks and the Heat. And as John Corrales said yesterday, and I agree with this, the philosophy of doing that against those teams was that they don't shoot as well as the Warriors. And I thought for sure the Celtics would do a lot of switching in this game. And what happened is the Celtics came out playing drop coverage. 18% of the defensive possessions for the Celtics in the first through the third quarter, 18% they switched. In the fourth quarter alone, they switched 29% of the time. That was a dramatic change. They also went smaller. So they went smaller, and they went back to their bread and butter defensively, which is switchability. Offensively, they targeted Curry on the pick and roll. They didn't do it a ton in the first half. In the second half, that's another change they made. They targeted Steph Curry, almost called him Seth, targeted Steph Curry on the pick and roll action. And they were very successful in doing so. The other thing about this Celtics offense and how they got going last night, and when we talk about White and Smart and Horford and not so much Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I said this a week or two ago. I think Chris was just here. I'm not sure if JJ was here. But I said a week or two ago, the crazy thing about the Celtics is that, yes, they're led by Brown and Tatum, but they have 5, 6, 7 guys who at any moment can score 20 points in a game. And that's actually happened this postseason. 7 guys have scored 18 points or more in a playoff game this postseason for the Celtics. 7. 7 of the guys. We're talking Brown, we're talking Tatum, we're talking Horford, we're talking Smart, we're talking White, we're talking Grant Williams, and we're talking Peyton Pritchard. 7 guys have scored 18 or more in a game in the postseason this year for this basketball team. And you never know which one's going to go off. Like randomly, you'll have Grant Williams go off against Milwaukee and drop what, like 27 points, whatever it was, hit 1,000,000 threes. One night you'll have Peyton Pritchard hit and score 18 points. Last night, Derek White goes off. Al Horford's gone off twice this postseason. Actually 3 times, but his 2 best games, one against Milwaukee, one last night. So at any given moment, the supporting cast can score. You just don't know who it's going to be and when it's going to happen. And, of course, what we saw again is this kind of schizophrenic basketball from Boston. And the Warriors have that as well. We talked about their turnovers. We talked about how the Warriors have lulls. But the Celtics usually have longer lulls and worse lulls than the Warriors. And they had one of those in the third quarter. But they've also shown resiliency. You don't know what to expect from this team. They're what, 6-0 this postseason after a loss? They're 8-2 on the road? Like, they have just shown resiliency. And here was Jaylen Brown last night talking about knowing what it takes.
We battle tested. We've been through a lot. We've been through a lot of experience, a lot of losses. So we know what it takes to win. So I give credit to every guy in that locker room from top to bottom. We got a great, resilient group, and the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So everybody comes to work every single day, not just players, but coaching staff, medical staff, weight training, everybody. So it's an all-around collective effort every single night, and everybody did their job.
I want your thoughts on this game. Celtics lead the finals 1-0. Game 2 is on Sunday night. 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone line is 1-800-920-1140. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick C Radio. Also, don't forget the YouTube channel. You can jump in there and chat with us, Sports 1140 KHTK on YouTube. What might be the biggest issue for the Warriors in this series? I'm going to tell you in about 90 seconds.
It's the Nick Cattle Show.
This, I think, speaks to the power of the media and the power of
The Nick Cattle Show.
On Sports 1140 KHTK.
Don't forget, you can check out Coastside Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. So I was just waiting for this. Before I get to this question of what might be the biggest issue for the Warriors in this series, I was waiting for this after my discussion about Jason Tatum versus Steph Curry yesterday. I said I would take Jason Tatum over Curry right now. If I had to draft one of the players out of the two teams, I would take Tatum number one. And there was some pushback, and I get it. Look, it's a tough discussion. It's a debate. Like, Steph Curry is one of the all-time greats. So I knew I was going to get this as soon as Tatum shot 3 of 17 last night. Text line, 916-339-1140. Time for the Tatum spin. Actually, I think Jason Tatum made my point last night. He actually made my point better than I could make my point. And I'll tell you why. My point about Jason Tatum was that he was a better overall player than Steph Curry. If Steph Curry shoots 3 of 17 from the floor, what does his game look like? If he shoots 3 of 17 from the floor, is there any chance the Warriors win that game in the finals? So actually, I think Jason Tatum proved my point last night. There's no need for spin. He was 3 of 17 from the floor, but he also dished out 13 assists, only had 2 turnovers, was a plus 16. Played very good defense from the first quarter through the fourth quarter. Steph Curry had a fantastic first quarter when he wasn't being defended at all, when he had 8 to 10 feet of wide open space. Fantastic. 6 of 7 from 3 and dropped 21. Looked like he was going to score 80. All right? Oh, 21 in the first quarter. That's 21 every quarter. He's going to score 84 points. Oh, hey, maybe he'll drop 100. So I actually think Tatum proved my point. Because if Steph Curry shoots 3 of 17 from the floor, what else is he doing that can absolutely impact that basketball game at the level that Tatum did last night? Is he defending 3 to 5 positions? No. Now, I'm sure he could maybe dish out some assists if Klay's on fire. But I think he actually helped prove my point. So thank you, Jason Tatum. I appreciate you. Another text, 916-339-1140. The Celtics are really exceptional at defending the paint. That's CD. They're exceptional doing everything defensively. I mean, honestly, if you look at it statistically, they don't really have a weakness. Their starting 5 defensively is by far the best defensive 5 that we've seen this season. And you probably have to go back, I don't know how many seasons, but, when they've had Smart, Brown, Tatum, Horford, and Robert Williams on the floor at the same time, they have statistically, analytically, and the eye test would tell you, they've been ridiculous defensively. And I agree with you, CD. They can absolutely defend the paint, but they also do a really good job at defending the three-point line because, again, they can consistently, constantly put pressure on the shooters when they're switching because they can play, a number of different guys in different positions. Rob Williams can defend pretty much all 5 positions on the floor. The only problem he has is when they have like a big bulky center like a Brook Lopez. Williams can struggle with those guys. Horford at times can struggle with those guys as well. But Horford and Williams, their ability to switch on smaller players while locking down the paint and being able to block shots at the rim, that's what makes it difficult. And then you've got Marcus Smart who can defend, anybody from Steph Curry to Giannis Antetokounmpo, which we've seen this postseason. So it's the switchability, it's the versatility, it's the size, it's the length, it's the athleticism. If they have it cooking on that end of the floor, they're very difficult to beat. And for the most part, when they lose in the postseason, it's because they turn the basketball over, they don't make shots, like those two things. Nick Cattle Show here on a Friday, Sports 1140 KHDK. So going into this series, and I said this yesterday, to me it was the Warriors offense versus the Celtics defense. It was clearly defined, right? The Warriors are one of the best offensive teams that you can put on the basketball court. As I just mentioned, the Celtics, one of the best defensive teams that you can put on the basketball court. And whichever side kind of won that battle you felt would win this series. And that's why I picked the Warriors to win this series, because I thought they would execute offensively at a high level, a high enough level to do just enough to beat that Celtics defense. That's what we were talking about going into the series. What's interesting last night, Chris brought this up, and then I saw the Ringer write this. I don't know if somebody at the Ringer ripped you off, by the way, Verlad, but somebody from the Ringer wrote about the very thing that you said to us in the office. So we're sitting in the office, and Chris said, what the Celtics did last night, they beat the Warriors at their own game. In the fourth quarter, that's what they did. That fourth quarter, the Celtics beat the Warriors by doing what the Warriors do best. And he's right. When you look at the Celtics, they had 12 assists in that fourth quarter alone, which is just an outrageous number. If you get 30 assists in an NBA game, it's really, really good. 12 and a quarter, obviously, you would pace out to 48 in the game. That's absurd. 12 assists in the fourth quarter. Jaylen Brown and Tatum had 9 of those 12 assists. They also, and that's what we think about when we think about the Warriors offense, right? Constant ball movement, high assist numbers, keep the ball popping. Also man movement, nonstop man movement. And what the Celtics did was a lot. They would relocate. Guys kept moving and relocating behind the three-point line in the fourth quarter, and they would make the extra pass, and they would find the guy who relocated to take an open three. And that is very, very common when you watch Golden State. Very common. They also shot the lights out. 9 of 12 from three-point land, which would remind you of one of those crazy quarters that the Warriors can throw up. Here was Steve Kerr in the postgame.
I thought we had a couple turnovers, a couple bad possessions offensively, and they just pounced. You know, they took advantage of every opportunity. They moved the ball well, and like I said, you know, you make 5-6 threes in a row in the fourth quarter. Then that's tough to overcome. So, you know, we'll watch the tape and learn from it and see what we can do better. My gut reaction, just what I just witnessed, was they just came in, played a hell of a fourth quarter, and you got to give them credit. And it's pretty much as simple as that.
It's the depth. It's the depth. I mentioned this in the first segment today. People look at the Celtics and they think Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, that's how they win offensively. The truth is that they do have depth. Al Horford can score. He's not going to do it constantly. He's not going to, average 25 in a series, but he'll pop 25. He'll pop 30. He'll pop 20. He'll do it. He's done it multiple times this postseason. Derek White will pop. He did it against Miami in one game. He did it last night. He'll pop for 20. He'll pop for 25. If Peyton Pritchard hits his first three, I'm telling you, he'll pop for 15. He'll pop for 20 if he gets enough minutes. If Marcus Smart shoots 35 to 40% from three and he's aggressive in attacking the paint with a post-up or two, he'll pop for 20. He can pop for 25. And that's what you saw during the 17-0 run. You saw Smart making shots. You saw White making shots. You saw Horford making shots. And so all of the takes, and look, I was one of the people saying this, like the Warriors need to dictate the style of this series. They need to play their brand of basketball and force the Celtics to be uncomfortable. But what happens, and I don't think this is going to happen, but here's the Warriors' biggest issue and what should be their biggest fear. What happens if the Celtics are better offensively than we thought they would be in this series? Because their defense is going to be there. If the Celtics play better offensively than expected, and they don't have to play like they did in the fourth quarter, by the way, but if they play better than expected offensively, the Warriors are going to have their hands full. So the Warriors have to continue to execute and do what they do best and force the Celtics to feel a little bit awkward and adjust on the fly. And the other thing that the Warriors have to answer is, this was another question I had yesterday. It didn't really show up until the fourth quarter. Can the Warriors respond to the physicality of the Celtics on the defensive end? And the Celtics, they cranked up the physicality along with switching more in that fourth quarter, and Golden State struggled with that. They struggled. They did not like the physicality that the Celtics brought to them in that fourth quarter, and that's a major reason why their offense fell off of a cliff. Fascinating. 916-339-1140 is the text line. Phone line is 1-800-920-1140. Twitter, IG, YouTube, TikTok, Sports 1140 KHTK. Kings are set to pick fourth in 20 days. What's the history tell us? Find out next.
Let me tell you something. Be respectful. Be respectful now. Okay. We recognize that he's recognized as the greatest corner the game has ever seen. This man single-handedly shut off an entire side of the field. Am I right?
You're right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we got that out the way.
Yep.
That's done. That's done. Okay? We ain't talking about a defensive lineman rushing the quarterback. We ain't talking about somebody that's a sack master, whether it's Reggie White, whether it's Lawrence Taylor, whether I don't give a damn who it is, JJ. Well, I don't give a damn who you got, okay? Rushing the passer, that's one responsibility. You're talking about a man that shut off an entire side of the field. That's just defense. What about offense? Did you see him in the Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Did you see when he caught the ball and then got up and started dancing? You saw him play wide receiver, right? Okay, that's two, right? That's offense, is that not?
Yes.
I'm sorry, what's the third category in football? I believe that's special teams. Are we going to sit here? Are we going to sit here and bring in the question, prime time Deion Sanders on special teams, punt return, kick returns, prancing around the field, daring you, am I lying about this? Daring you to kick the ball to him.
And that's not even your main point, is it, Stephen?
That's even my main point. You understand what I'm saying? All I'm trying to say to you is this. So you got offense, defense, special teams. We could bring the wardrobe, we could bring the showboat, and we could bring the marketing, all of that into the equation. You can't come to me. Maybe you want to mention Bo Jackson. Injuries obviously derailed him, but he was a running back in football, and then he played baseball 2 months. I didn't even bring up baseball. I didn't even bring it up. I didn't bring it up. Hold on. And not only did this man play in Major League Baseball, not only was he in the ATL, for those of you who don't know, the Black Mosaic.
Hot ladder.
Lord have mercy. I just shiver. All right? Not only you got that going on, right?
Not
only you got that.
I live in the A.
Yes, I know.
Shout out to Midtown.
I know, all right? But not only you had that, but who else did he play for? The greatest franchise in the history of sports.
Came up with him.
The New York Yankees. Excuse me. And there are going to be people out there that's going to say, oh, you know what? He didn't tackle. You know what my response is? Where's your evidence? Because I didn't see people catching passes in his vicinity enough to be tackled. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Where's the evidence? So when you look at it, you can't bring a quarterback, you can't bring a defensive lineman, you can't bring anybody in the history of football that did as many things as he did.
The answer is Tom Brady. This one's not tough.
If not for the Super Bowls, would Tom Brady be your first quarterback that you select?
No.
If you select in the defense, who the first player you starting with?
LT.
Period. That's the best football player to ever touch the field because he changed the entire game.
Out with the hot takes and in with the smart takes.
You're a smart guy. You're my favorite talk host here because you say it how it is.
It's the Nick Cattle Show on Sports 1140 KHTK.
KHTK's 2022 NBA draft coverage brought to you by Power Business Technology. Visit them online at powercopiers.com. So we're going to take a little time away from the NBA Finals, Game 1 last night, and dip into the Kings. As we know, they're drafting number 4 in less than 3 weeks, 20 days away. We are 20 days away from the 2022 NBA draft. And we're all wondering what the Kings are going to do. We know that most of the mock drafts that we have followed here and we've shared with you through the first couple weeks of this process since the Kings found out they were getting pick number 4 points to Jaden Ivey. Pretty much almost everybody across the board has Jaden Ivey going for. So what I thought we would do today and this will be led by your lovely host, Chris Ralad. We're going to take a look at former number 4 picks in the draft. Get a feel for the kind of player, the kind of impact that player has had in his NBA career. So we'll take a look at some of the most recent. We're not going back like 50, 60 years. We'll look at some of the most recent.
Not?
No. Sorry, I didn't tell you that. You did too much research. Chris is like, I went all the way back to like 73.
Well, we got about 5 pages here I got to delete.
So we're going to go back and take a look at some of these number 4 picks in the draft, and we'll kind of just discuss how we feel about them and whether or not they're a bust or they're playable. If they ended up being very good, we'll kind of rate good, bad, and ugly. Okay, so we'll go good, bad, and ugly. And Chris, crank the music. JJ will jump in on this as well. And what year are we starting with, by the way?
I think we should start with 2009. That's the last time the Kings had the number 4 pick.
Oh, you don't say.
So 2009, the Sacramento Kings were on the clock, and they picked Tyreke Evans.
Tyreke Evans. So I'll tell you, from somebody who was living in the Northeast at the time, like when Tyreke Evans was drafted, and there was like a 4 to 5 year period there where like the Celtics were constantly linked to Tyreke Evans. I don't know who liked him. I think it was Ainge, because there was just all the time, they might go out and get somebody like Tyreke Evans. It was like 3-4 years running. All right, so let's look at Tyreke. Obviously, I mean, his rookie season.
Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year. 25-6.
Move over, Michael Jordan.
Steal and a half. Watch out.
Move over, LeBron James.
I mean, he shot. He didn't shoot well from 3, obviously. But when you look at some of the other things he did, I mean, he did shoot 48% from the field. So he came in like a lion. Verlad, would you say like he went out like a lamb?
It was one of those things like, oh, man, once he gets a shot, watch out.
Watch out.
Never quite got that shot.
But, I mean, he did average 16 points a game in his career. He also averaged, about 4.5 rebounds and 4.5 assists. He got you a steal a game. I would actually say he was good. I wouldn't say he was bad. I wouldn't say he was ugly. I would say Tyreke Evans, if you get a guy who can average you 15, 16, 17 points a night, it's not the ceiling you want from the 4 pick, but you'll take it, right, JJ?
Yeah, I think same thing, man. I think he has been solid. It's been off the court. That's the issue, and that's where it brings down his value, of course, and we haven't seen Tyreke in the league for 3 years now? It's 3 years, right? Yeah, 3 years. And it's tough, but I'm with you. I'm going good, man. He's not the bad. He's not the ugly. I'll go good.
All right, let's look at 2010.
Oh, we're looking at 2010?
I was
just going to go around like the different picks.
Okay, good.
So let's just go with last year. Scotty Barnes, 2021.
Scotty Barnes is, look, I mean, it's only 1 year in, right? But I think it's a no-brainer. I think this guy is going to be good. First of all, I just believe in Masai Ujiri because he's really good at what he does. And secondly, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, dude, rookie of the year, he went out there, he played very, very well. And I think he's going to be a really solid player. He might have an all-star ceiling. So I like Scotty Barnes. I think he's going to be absolutely in the good column, JJ.
Yeah, I'm going good. Hopefully he doesn't I guess pare down sooner than later, but he looks to be the part, and I was trying to think of Michael Carter-Williams was the name I was trying to come up with. Hopefully he does a Michael Carter-Williams us and win the rookie of the year and then don't show up the next 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But yeah, right now I'm going good. Scotty Barnes, good.
All right, who's next, Chris?
All right, let's go to 2010. The Kings actually had the 5th pick that year. They got
fifth pick.
They got DeMarcus Cousins. That was
good.
Really good. But the 4th pick was Wesley Johnson.
Oh God.
Oh no.
That's ugly.
Yeah,
right?
It's ugly.
We got to go.
Yeah, it's ugly.
Hold on. Let me Google. I actually liked him in college. I didn't like him like enough to.
He was long though. He was long and lanky.
Yes, he was. 6'7", long and lanky. Wesley Johnson. His best year is, let me see, it jumped on me. His best year was 2014-2015 with the Lakers. He averaged just a shade under 10 points a game. Yeah, but absolutely. For the 4th pick, that's ugly. Next.
Let's go with 2015.
2015.
Oh.
That is Kristaps Porzingis.
See, this is a really rough one.
The unicorn.
Because, like, look.
Bing bong.
Bing bong. I would say, by the way, did you hear the Bing Bong remix? I heard it yesterday. Woo. When you look at Porzingis, it's really tough because you have to talk about the injuries, right? Which absolutely affected and impacted his career for like 2 or 3 seasons. The fit in Dallas wasn't great. He was good in New York, certainly. He looked good with the Wizards after the trade. I would lean towards good. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's ugly. I would lean towards good, even though, the nickname of the unicorn and kind of the projections and the pomp and circumstance, everybody kind of expected him to be unbelievable. So he fell short of expectations so far, but still good, JJ.
Yeah, he's good. I just looked up his age because I thought he was a little older, but I remember
Hold on, let me
coming.
guess.
Yep.
I'm going to go with 26.
You're spot the heck on, which is fantastic. Great job by you, man.
Hey.
He still has a lot of life. I don't know if his body is going to hold up to it.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I'm leaning towards the good. He has all the tools. It's just sometimes you're too big and your body just goes against its natural ability. 7'3", man, they always have big problems.
He's like one of those guys where when you look at Chet Holmgren, you get concerned.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You go, that kind of frame. And Porzingis put some weight on the frame, but still he's got that frame. You worry about the knees, you worry about the feet, you worry about the back. Yeah.
And I think he would, just looking at it, and again, we're just going off a small sample size of Chet. I think he's athletically and he has a little more skill than Chet. Just my thought.
Huh. I would probably agree with that. All right, next one.
Let's go with the 2018 NBA draft that Kings fans rarely ever even talk about. And the 4th pick, Memphis picked Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, that's good.
He's good.
Yeah. Next. I mean, that's an easy one.
Easy.
He's good.
All right, let's go to 2014 NBA draft, Aaron Gordon.
You have to go good, right? I mean, you have to.
He really frustrates me. Like, if I were a Denver fan, he's one of those guys where he can play well, he impacts a game, and then he just all of a sudden becomes invisible for like a 20-minute stretch. He's so athletically gifted, and he's got, look, if you were to kind of sculpt a creative player in one of those video games, like his size, his frame, everything, like that's what you would want from a guy who plays like a 3/4. But for some reason, he can't consistently impact games night in and night out. He had the same issue in Orlando that he's had in Denver. He kind of just disappears every once in a while. But yeah, he's good.
13, 6.3 on the boards, 2.5 assists for the career. I'll give you good.
Yeah, I just feel like he should be more, right?
Yes.
Like I look at him and I say that dude should be like at least 18 to 20 a night. Now with Denver, you've got Jamal Murray, you've got Jokic, so it's a little tougher, but I feel like he needs to get more out of his talent.
All right, one more. Let's go 2013.
2013.
Uh-oh. Cody Zeller, number 4.
Oh, God.
Bad.
Hold on, I gotta look.
That might be ugly. That's ugly.
That's what I'm saying. I've got to look at the stats here first before I say ugly. He's absolutely at least he's bad.
That's a Jordan pick, right?
His ceiling is bad. That is a Jordan pick.
Man.
His ceiling is at least bad.
Ugly.
I'm gonna go ugly. 8 and 6. Yeah, that's ugly.
That's ugly.
4th pick. Imagine if you get somebody at 4 and you get 8 and 6 out of him.
Is Cody Zeller still in the league, by the way?
Oh my God. He played with Portland this year. He played 27 games. He averaged 5 and 5. So almost his career averages.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. His career year, 2019-2020. 11 and 7. He was putting in work that year. Yeah, that's ugly. So what's the final count? How many did we do? 6, 7?
Yeah, we've got 4 goods and 2 uglies.
Really?
All right.
Can I put a couple? Josh Jackson, ugly.
Ugly.
Yeah. DeAndre Hunter, where you at with that real quick? Still bad?
Injuries have killed him. I think he's good. If he's healthy, he's good, but injuries have killed him.
Dragan Bender.
Oh, God.
Ugly?
Hideous.
All right.
Deion Waiters?
Ooh.
Bad.
Bad, yeah.
too much bad play to make him good. He had good moments, but not good overall.
He's a heck of a skater, roller skater.
He's got that down. Time to check out Cosi Medical Clinic, who's dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. 916-339-1140 is the text line. Don't forget, you can listen to us live at KHTK.com. Up next, can't miss audio for 49ers fans.
It's the Nick Cattle Show.
Nick Cattle.
Text us at 916-339-1140.
Sports 1140 KHTK.
We've got can't miss audio that should make 49ers fans very happy. But before we get to that, Dean, the YouTube channel, Sports 1140 KHTK, Dean asks, what's going on with the Kings? Any new news? We get an Ivy or Bradley Beal? Not much going on, honestly. There's really not a whole heck of a lot going on. And as I responded to Dean in the chat, and again, you can easily just check out the chat by going to the YouTube channel and chatting with us in that window. As I said to Dean, I would honestly expect things to be very quiet over the next week or two, which of course means like later today or tomorrow there'll be a gigantic trade made in the league. But I would tend to expect things to be very quiet over the next week or two, because usually the way this works, the league does not enjoy when a team or teams trump their biggest series, their biggest event. Like when you think about the World Series, things, they shut it down. Major League Baseball does not want any big news outside of the World Series. They want you to focus on the World Series. The same thing with the Stanley Cup Final. And I think the NBA is the same. Like Adam Silver, he doesn't want anything like significant to happen here. He wants the focus to be fully on Warriors, Celtics. And then when the series finishes, he wants those big headlines, those sexy rumors, those stories to start popping up, because he wants the NBA to continue to have a handle on the sports calendar. And that's what the NFL does well. They're the best sport when it comes to dominating the calendar, which is why I think, one of the reasons why, aside from just the product, they are the number one sport in this country. It's because they dominate the calendar. Like you don't go more than like a month or two without thinking NFL. And they force that on you by how they structure their offseason, how they structure OTAs and then mini camps and then training camp and then preseason and then the season, and the season stretches out. And then, of course, you've got the playoffs and the Super Bowl, and then you've got the combine and free agency and then the draft. It's nonstop. And that's what every sport wants. So usually leagues, professional sports leagues, do not enjoy their championships being upstaged by news. So I'd be surprised if anything significant came out over the next 10 days, 2 weeks. I think as you get ready for the draft, the week of, June 20th, when you get closer to that is when things will heat up. I mean, it's no guarantee, but that's at least my expectation. Nick Cattle Show here on a Friday, Sports 1140 KHTK. So let's talk some football for a couple of minutes. We'll get right back to the finals. We'll get right back to the draft. But I wanted to mention the Niners here. Trey Lance, he's the story. He's the story of this offseason. He's going to be the story of camp season, the preseason, the regular season, etc. He is the story for the Niners. And I honestly believe, depending on how Lance plays, this team could swing 3 or 4 games. Like, if Trey Lance isn't good, 7-10 is not out of the question. 8-9 is not out of the question. If Trey Lance gives you Jimmy Garoppolo level play or better, 10-7, 11-6, not out of the question. I think a lot depends on his play. And so everybody's talking about him. OTAs have been happening the last 2 weeks, and there was a lot said this week from his coaches and his teammates. First, let's hear from D'Amico Ryan.
I think Trey has done a great job. It's good to see him, with his command and him running the offense, and he's zipping it past us a lot. So he's making it tough on us. Trey has done a great job. It's good to see him just coming into his own role as a leader and being able to take control of the team. So, we're fired up for Trey and what he can do for us.
Fired up for Trey. Here was Jeff Wilson.
Man, you could tell he's way more demanding, you know what I mean? Like he's always been demanding, don't get me wrong, but, you could just tell that he's embracing the role, you know what I mean? And you can see it. He's growing up, he's maturing at a rapid pace, and it's every day. It's not just since we came back to OTAs. He gets better every day with whatever he needs to do, and he's been on top of his game.
He's getting better every day. He's embracing his role. One last one, Talanoa Hufanga.
That dude can sling the rock, I'll tell you that. So Trey's been a tremendous. I think he, just kind of his guidance between his first year and his second year, just being right next to him, being a rookie with him was awesome. Getting able to see his insight as a quarterback, kind of see what they see and what they're looking for, and what he can do on the field is just outstanding. And you love to go against that kind of competition each and every day. So we're excited to have him, and I'm just blessed to be on the same field as him.
Hearing good things about Trey Lance, much better than hearing bad things about Trey Lance. I did not expect anything different coming from Ryans or Wilson or Hufanga. They are 49ers. I don't think you'd have a teammate come out and go, how do I feel about Trey? That's how I feel. Next question. That's not going to happen. The other thing I would say is we're in the shorts and T-shirts part of the program here. Like, we're not talking about full speed. We're not talking about pads. We're not talking about taking hits. We're not talking about scheming against it. Like, this is shorts and T-shirts. So if Trey Lance is going to look good, I would hope he would look good in shorts and T-shirts. Like, if he looked bad during this time, then I'd be panicked. I'm also wondering, like, how much talk is too much talk? Of course the team wants to be confident in him. Of course you want to hear good things. You want his teammates to talk him up a little bit. You want to build his confidence. But you are also, when you talk very highly of somebody who hasn't played a lot of football that counts at the NFL level, you are setting the expectation level. And so if people keep talking about Lance, and if they talk too much about Lance, will the expectations be too high for Trey Lance? And I also wonder, like, we always get wrapped up in the football because that's what matters the most. I do wonder, how will Lance handle things as QB1? How does he handle the grind of a season? How does he handle the chatter, whether it's good or bad? How does he handle the downs if he's not playing well? Does he respond to that quickly? These are all questions that cannot be answered in this very moment, and we won't know until he gets out there. I mean, it could all be optimistic and positive, and he could say, yes, I can handle the grind. Yes, I can handle the chatter. Yes, I can handle when I don't play so well in a given week. Or he might melt down. We have no idea. We have no idea how he'll play. And I'll also tell you, his teammates don't know how he'll play. Like, you can feel confident, you can feel good based off of what you're seeing, but you don't truly know until those bullets start flying. I find it so compelling what's going to happen. Time to check out Coastside Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. Also, don't forget KHTK's NBA draft coverage this year is brought to you by Power Business Technology. You can visit them online at powercopiers.com. 916-339-1140, the text line. You can call us, 1-800-920-1140. You can also download the app. Go to the App Store, type up Sports 1140 KHTK, and you'll be set. Coming up, I'll tell you why I could not stand how some of the Warriors handled their post-game press conferences last night.
Nick Cattle Show.
On Sports 1140 KHTK.
The Warriors were stunned in the fourth quarter last night. I think all of us were stunned by that fourth quarter. And that Celtics wave just kept picking up steam. And when you look at last night's game, obviously the Warriors losing gives the Celtics home court advantage now. Of course, the Celtics have to make something of that, but they have the home court advantage. A lot of people were questioning whether or not the Celtics would be able to win an away game in this series. They did. They won the first one. And, obviously the Warriors, they were upset. They were disappointed. They just gave up a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter on their home floor in the first game of the NBA Finals. And I was sitting around last night in the living room watching all of the post-game press conferences, right? I love watching the post-games and hearing how players handle each situation. And I always want to try to figure out what's possibly newsworthy from what the players say so the next day we can talk about it. And when I was watching, Steve Kerr and Draymond Green and Steph Curry, they all stuck to a very similar script. Let's first hear from Draymond.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out. Watch some film, but they have guys that put pressure on the rim, so you're gonna have to rotate and help, and we'll have to figure out where our next rotation is coming from and do it. But they hit 21 threes, and Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and Derek White combined for 15 of them. So those guys are good shooters, but 15 for 23. My math right? 8, 7, and 8. 8, 7, and 8. Yeah, that's 23, right? Yeah. 15 for 23 from those guys. So. Be fine.
We'll be fine. So obviously the message was the reason why we lost this game is because Derek White, Marcus Smart, and Al Horford shot great from three. Here was more from Green.
No, I think, they stayed within striking distance and, they made shots late. So we'll be fine. We'll figure out the ways we can stop them from getting those threes and take them away. But, no, I don't think it was a rhythm thing. We pretty much dominated the game for the first 41, 42 minutes. So we'll be fine.
What's he talking about? I'm okay with, trying to be confident. I'm fine with, believing that, you're the better team. But what he just said is just factually ridiculous. They dominated that game. They dominated. They're up by 4 at the end of the first quarter. Is that domination? Steph Curry scored 21 points. They were up by 4. The Celtics outscored the Warriors in the second quarter 28-22. That is certainly not domination. At halftime, the Celtics had a lead. How can you actually fix your lips to tell anybody that you dominated the first 42 minutes of that game when you were losing at halftime? Now, you certainly dominated the third quarter, and then you got smoked in the fourth. So, how can you call that domination? You know what I call that? Another D word, delusional. There's no way you dominated that game, Draymond. Now, you could say you dominated the first, 14 minutes or so of the second half. But when you're literally losing at halftime, you can't tell me you were dominating the first 40-plus minutes. That's just silly. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And the other thing he said was, we just got to find ways to take away those threes. Well, then you're not going to be doubling Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. Because if you double one of those guys, somebody's going to be open, which means someone's going to have an open look. Then we had Steve Kerr.
Well, give them credit. I mean, they made 21 threes. They were moving the ball really well, and they had us on our heels. They made a good push, to start the fourth, and they kept that momentum going. It's going to be tough, to beat Boston if they're making 21 threes and they're getting, combined 11 from, Horford and White. Those guys. Give them credit. They knocked down every big shot in the fourth quarter. Boston was just played a brilliant quarter, and they came in earned the win.
So again, the reason why the Celtics won that game is because White, Smart, and Horford hit shots. They hit threes. That's pretty much the message, and Steph Curry said much of the same. Here's why I hate the message. I hate the message from Draymond Green. I hate the message from Kerr, and I hated the message from Steph. Look, it's a fact. I'm not going to sit here and tell you on the Nick Cato Show on this Friday that Derek White and Marcus Smart had out-of-body experiences in that fourth quarter. That's a fact. It's a fact that the Celtics got great shooting from two guys who are not great shooters. But let me share with you some other facts, okay? Something that you cannot debate. You cannot debate that the Golden State offense collapsed. Just absolutely collapsed when the Celtics defense upped their physicality and started to switch more than they switched in the first three quarters in the fourth quarter. That's a fact. One of the reasons why you lost that game, Steve, Steph, and Dre, is because your offense fell off of a cliff. That's fact number one. Here's another fact. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum shot a combined 13 of 40 from the floor, 3 of 13 from three-point land. Grant Williams took 2 shots, missed both of them, was a complete non-factor. Now, if you want to just pay attention to the Tatum-Brown part, fine by me. But do we think that Brown and Tatum are going to shoot a combined 13 of 40 from the floor in any other game in this series? They might. It's possible. Anything's possible. But I find it very unlikely. So while we sit there and we talk about how Derek White and Marcus Smart, and I'll get to Horford in a minute because I do not put him with that other company. You want to talk about White and Smart making shots? Fine. Fine. They made shots. And you'll live with those guys making shots. But what you also have to look at is the fact that the two superstars on the team couldn't throw the basketball in the ocean. And you have to imagine that will even out, right? Then let's get to Horford. This idea that Horford, Smart, and White are getting lumped in. And they just say, oh, those guys are just unbelievable. And, they're good shooters, but they're not going to shoot like that. Let's not get this twisted. Do you know what Al Horford is shooting from three in the playoffs this year? Horford is shooting 46.3% from three. 46%. That's an outrageously high number. 46%. You know how many threes he's taking a game? 4.6. So it's not like he's only taking 2 threes a game and he's knocking, one of those down every once in a while. He's taking more than 4.5 three attempts per game, and he's shooting 46% from three-point land. Ipso facto, Al Horford is a really good shooter from distance. It's one of his strengths. He stretches the floor. He was one of the first most consistent guys at his size that does that. And the fact that you left him unaccounted for, that's not tactical, that's foolish. Let's get to this idea that the Celtics, again, I'm just dealing with facts here. Oh, if they hit 21 threes, if they shoot that well, man, oh man, it's going to be tough to beat them. And, that's kind of an anomaly. Nick, that's an anomaly they shot that well. Really. Let's look at this postseason. Game 3 against Brooklyn. They shot 16 of 39 from three. That's 41%. In Game 2 against Milwaukee, they shot 20 for 43 from three. That's 46.5%. In Game 6 against Milwaukee, they shot 17 of 43 from three. That's 39.5%. In Game 7 against Milwaukee, they shot 22 of 55 from three-point land. That's 40%. Against Miami, Game 2, they shot 20 of 40 from three. That's 50%. And last night, they shot 21 of 41, which is 51.2%. So what I'm telling you is there have been 6 occasions in this postseason alone that the Celtics have shot 39 or more three-pointers and shot better than 39.5%. 6 times this postseason, they've shot 39 or more threes and shot at a clip of almost 40% or better. So last night was not an anomaly. And when you talk about three-point shooting, that's how it works. Some guys get hot. Some guys are cold. Everybody wants to sit there and wax poetic about Robert Horry, right? Why was Robert Horry so well known? Because he hit the big shots. That's what happens in the playoffs. That's how you make runs. You make runs when the other guys make shots. That's why Shaq talks about the others all the time on TNT. So the fact is, this Celtics team has shot the basketball pretty well when they've shot high volume. So that's just fact. And by the way, in those 6 games, the numbers I just gave you, Celtics record is 6-0. So what happened last night is not something that has never happened before during this run for them. It happened 5 previous times. So to treat it like it was just this once-in-a-lifetime Haley's Comet, I think is dismissive. And if I'm the Warriors and I'm looking at it that way, I think I'm looking at it the wrong way because there are other things that affected and impacted the game and made you lose than just Derek White and Marcus Smart. And I have to question the accountability from the Warriors because when they had the conversations last night with the media, it was, oh, well, the Celtics were just hot. They were great. And that comes across as there wasn't much that we could do about it. You know, I mean, Derek White and Marcus Smart knocked down some threes. Not much you can do about that. So you have to look in the mirror. The fact is, Steve Kerr, I'll talk about this more later on in the show. I thought Steve Kerr was out-coached in the fourth quarter. JJ agrees with that. JJ said it's happened a number of times with Kerr. I thought a rookie head coach out-coached Steve Kerr in that fourth quarter. I thought Steph Curry, after his hot first quarter, fell apart. And the statistics will tell you that. And maybe the most, ironic thing about all of this, about what was said last night, Draymond kind of started this chain of well, they just got hot, and what are you going to do? And the last guy who should be saying that is Draymond Green. He's calling out the shooting of other people when last night he shot 2 of 12 from the field and 0 of 4 from 3. You're the last guy that should be talking about who can shoot and who you want to allow to shoot. Because, frankly, the Celtics allowed you to shoot last night and you stunk. So, I don't know if I'd be going out there and saying what he said. I just found it fascinating that everybody pretty much to a man. Klay Thompson, I'll give credit to. Klay Thompson, when he was asked a question, he spun it inward. And he said, look, we turned the basketball over, which led them to some shots. We didn't contest as well as we could have. My point is, when you lose a basketball game like the Warriors lost last night, when you get outscored 40-16 at home in an NBA Finals game, you have to look at what you did and what you need to correct. And maybe they're doing it behind closed doors. But what those guys said publicly last night, I thought was just weak on their part. Your offense was awful. Derek White and Marcus Smart's shot making, and it's not like they each made 7 shots. I mean, Al hit 6 out of the 11 threes. The other guys hit a combined 5. It's not like one guy just went, it's not like White or Smart went 7 of 7 individually. But when you look at the game in the fourth quarter, yes, the hot shot making from the Celtics and those two guys, absolutely a part of the story. But the Warriors, most of them, made it out to be the only part of the story. And that's a disservice to themselves. 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone line is 1-800-920-1140. You can follow us on Instagram at sports1140KHTK. In 90 seconds, we talk NBA draft with Raphael Barlow.
New to Sacramento, but not to sports talk. It's the Nick Cattle Show on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Time to check out Cosi Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. Time to talk draft. And, of course, KHTK's 2022 NBA draft coverage brought to you by Power Business Technology. You can visit them online at powercopiers.com. We are joined right now by Raphael Barlow, the Director of Scouting for NBABigBoard.com. Raphael, thank you for joining us. It is much appreciated on this Friday. Let's start off your top 4 names heading into this draft right now, Raphael.
All right. You want them in a particular order or just top 4, period?
Give me your order, your particular order. How do you rank these guys right now?
All right. I am going against the consensus. I have Paolo Banchero from Duke, number 1. I would go to Jabari Smith from Auburn, 2. Chet Holmgren, number 3. And at number 4, where the Kings are picking, I have Jaden Ivey from Purdue.
I got to ask you, before we get into Ivy, why Banchero at 1?
He's the only guy out of the top 3 that I feel like, all right, I can give you the ball on the block or give you the ball and say, go get me a basket. 6'10", 250, already NBA ready. He can score on 3 levels. Maybe some concerns about the three-point shooting, but he shot over 40% from 3 in the NCAA tournament. He is, when he played Chet heads up, outplayed him. I think he's a guy that can score, rebound, and pass, and it's his ability to play point forward that really intrigues me. I think at his best, he is like the 2018-19 version of Blake Griffin, where Blake averaged like 24, 10, and 5, and I think Banchero is that type of player.
Interesting. Now let's get to Jaden Ivey. Raphael Barlow is with us here on the Nick Cattle Show, Sports 1140 KHTK. Why is Ivey your guy at 4?
Just the excitement that he brings, not saying it's all about excitement, but just he's an electric athlete, plays hard, and a guy that I think would do a lot better with NBA spacing. Even though he was great this year at Purdue, he was always on the floor with a traditional big that didn't stretch the floor, sometimes with 2. And so I think he's one of these guys that with shooters around him, and again with NBA spacing, he can have a major impact with his athleticism, his competitive fire, and he's a pretty reliable shooter from 3. Not a great shooter, but he made big strides from his freshman year to sophomore year, so I think that that will continue.
Raphael, when people look at Ivey, there's this conversation about whether or not he can be a lead guard in the NBA. Do you think he can be a lead guard, or do you like him off?
I like him as a combo, but I would, in a perfect world, I would like for him to get the opportunity to be a lead guard. And unfortunately, nowhere he goes, I believe, would give him that clear-cut path to be the team lead guard. So he's going to have to adjust to playing off the ball or as a combo until either a move is made or something happens where he gets the opportunity to play. So it may not be the best fit for Sacramento on paper, but I think if you're the Kings, maybe you're going for best player on the board, and we'll figure out fit later, which is, kind of consistent with taking another guard. But like I said, I do think that I would like to see him get the opportunity to be a lead.
Raphael Barlow is with us here on the Nick Cattle Show. He's the Director of Scouting for NBABigBoard.com. What's the biggest weakness of Ivey when you watch him? Are you concerned about his shot the most?
Not the three-point shot. It is the mid-range pull-up. I think he only had 17 points this season on mid-range pull-ups, and it's also his ability to shoot off the dribble. He's so fast and so explosive that everything is either a three-pointer or it's to the rim. So I would like to see him add a little bit of a mid-range game, maybe even a floater, not necessarily a mid-range pull-up all the time, but maybe like some soft-touch finishes. And I think that all of that will come with playing with a little bit more pace. Right now it's just 0 to 100. I've heard scouts compare him to Westbrook, which is definitely not a bad comparison if he has a Russell Westbrook-type career. But they were just saying, like, he needs to add a little bit more pace to his game as opposed to everything either at the rim or a three-pointer.
Raphael Barlow with us here. What do you think his ceiling is? I know you mentioned Paolo Banchero. His kind of comp as a ceiling was Blake Griffin going back a few years ago. What is the ceiling of Ivy, you think?
I've seen John Morant. I've seen that comparison. I've heard Russell Westbrook. I've heard maybe even a little bit of John Wall. So somewhere in between there, maybe the Westbrook one is probably the best in a sense, but even Westbrook is a primary ball handler. I don't think he is the natural playmaker and passer as Wall and John Morant, but I do think he is good as far as like driving kick and dump off passes. And we've seen Westbrook average 10 assists per game with pretty much basic reads. I've never really seen Westbrook make some really impressive, skip passes or live dribble passes. It's just all based off of him getting downhill and being able to drive and kick. So I think Ivy could be that, maybe to a lesser extent. I don't think he's going to have the same exact career as Westbrook, but I could see like a poor man's Russ.
Are you good with his catch and shoot?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. I mean, he improved his three-point shooting by about 11% from his freshman to sophomore year, and so he's still pretty young. And I think the shooting is the easiest thing to improve. If he puts in the work and the time, then I think the shooting numbers will come.
Last one for you today, Raphael. And again, thanks for your time on this Friday. If you were the Kings, would you contemplate moving down from the 4 spot? Or do you think if you drop down to 6, 7, or 8, is that too far of a drop? Do you see a significant gap between Ivy and the next 3 or 4 guys?
Well, if I'm the Kings, if the rumors are true that the Thunder have interest in Ivy, then I'm looking to move up. I'll package 4 in the future to move up to 2 to get whether it's – ideally I would love to see – I think Jabari Smith and maybe Paolo would be the best fits there. But to answer your question, yeah, I mean, if you can get down to 6 and you can get a Keegan Murray, I think it's probably the best fit in that range while also picking up another asset. I think I'd be comfortable with that, especially if you feel like De'Aaron Fox is your guy, which I am a fan of De'Aaron Fox. So I wouldn't be opposed to moving down and getting somebody like Keegan Murray.
All right, Raphael. Thanks, man. Great stuff. Let's do this again soon, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
There goes Raphael Barlow, Director of Scouting for NBABigBoard.com. So Raphael says he wouldn't mind dropping down. He wouldn't mind dropping down from 4 to 5 or 6. If you can get Keegan Murray and pick up an additional asset, he wouldn't mind doing that. Interesting. I think he's one of the first guys that we've talked to that doesn't see as big of a difference between the Jaden Ivies and the Keegan Murrays as others do. But he also mentioned, if you're believing that Fox is the guy, and he's a Fox guy, as he just mentioned, if you think Fox is the guy, then, you might be less apt to go after Ivy. You all know my opinion on that. Best player available. If you think Ivy is the best player that's left on that board and you think there's a gap between he and Keegan Murray and Shaedon Sharpe and other guys we've talked about, then you pick Jaden Ivey. 916-339-1140 is the text line. Phone line is 1-800-920-1140. Also, the catch and shoot stuff is very interesting because with Domas and Fox, you got to have somebody out there that can catch and shoot. You can follow me on Twitter at NickCRadio. Do the Warriors need more from Steph than we first thought? My answer coming up next.
If you want live and local talk in the afternoon, this is the only place to get it. It's the Nick Cattle Show on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Oh, Brent Musburger's done so with the Raiders, huh? Stepping down as the Raiders play-by-play man, so you will not hear his voice this football season calling Raiders games. Do the Warriors have to ask for even more from Steph Curry than we might have thought before last night's game? I'll get into that in a minute, but there was a text that was sent in by our friend Rich. And I kept it in my back pocket during the interview last segment. Did not want to take away from the draft talk. But to start this hour, I talked about how the Warriors, Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, handled the post-game press conferences last night. And pretty much I'll sum it up as, well, you know, Derek White, Marcus Smart made shots, and that's why we lost. And I said, well, I don't agree with that. I mean, I agree with the fact that White and Smart shot better than you would expect, and that certainly played a role. But to just sum it up like that is overlooking many other things that impacted that fourth quarter. And if those things, those other things that impacted the fourth quarter continue to happen the rest of this series, the Warriors will lose this series. I'm not telling you they are going to happen. I picked the Warriors. I have not moved away from that pick. But if you continue to play offense and let the Celtics' physicality on defense affect you like the Warriors did last night in the fourth quarter, you're going to lose this series. If you turn the basketball over and the Celtics take care of the ball because your lack of defensive intensity, you're going to lose this series. If you leave Al Horford, one of the better shooters on the Celtics, if you leave him wide open from three, he's going to help the Celtics win this series. If Steve Kerr gets outcoached like he got outcoached in the fourth quarter, you're going to lose the series. So to just sum it up and say, well, a couple of guys who aren't great shooters made shots tonight, that's why we lost, it's too simplistic for me. It dismisses everything else that happened. And by the way, it also takes the accountability completely away from you. Because what you're saying is, we didn't really do much wrong in that fourth quarter. It's just those two guys who aren't great shooters made shots. So don't blame us. At least that's how I took it. And then we got the text from Rich, because I talked about Draymond Green, who said in the postgame that the Warriors dominated for 41, 42 minutes of that game. Here's Rich's text. You hate the Warriors. First of all, that is not true. I said yesterday, and I actually text this and tweeted it. So you can check it at Nick C Radio. You can look up my timeline. I tweeted a day or two ago. I actually can't find myself to dislike the Warriors. I love Steph Curry. He's like one of my favorite players that has ever played the game. And I said yesterday, I can't wait to get to Chase Center next year to watch Curry in person because I've never had the opportunity to do so. So it's not true. I don't hate the Warriors. What I would say is let's not be, lazy with the opinions when you throw that at me. If I criticize a team or I disagree with something that the team does or says, it doesn't mean I hate that team. Don't buy into the Stephen A. Smith yelling at you through the television screen and think that I hate the Warriors because I disagree with how they handled their post-game press conference. That's outrageous. Outrageous. Like on a personal level, I might disagree with a lot of people that I hang out with. It doesn't mean I hate them. Like, I just disagree with what they did in a certain instance. I'm not shutting them down from my life. So, no, I do not hate the Warriors. They're actually one of my favorite teams to watch play, and I respect a ton out of all of those guys. I do. Iguodala, I watched Iguodala when he played with the 76ers against the Celtics in the Garden, and him and Paul Pierce went mano-a-mano. It was one of the best games I've seen. I think it was a Game 7. Like, everybody from Iggy to Steph to Clay to Dre, I like those guys. And I like Steve Kerr a lot. So I don't hate the Warriors. Then Rich says they were up by 13 going into the fourth quarter. That's dominant. No, Rich, it's not. Let me make this simple for you, okay? Using that logic and saying because they were up by 13 going into the fourth quarter, they were dominant. Well, the Celtics blew the doors off of the Warriors in the fourth quarter. Does that mean they were dominant in the game? Or does that mean they were dominant in the fourth quarter? I will agree with you, sir. I will give you your point that they were dominant in third. There is no argument. If I tried to argue that, I would look like an imbecile. If you tried to argue with me that the Celtics were not dominant in the fourth, you would look like an imbecile. Here's my simple question, Rich, and the reason why I said Draymond Green mentioning they were dominant through the first 41, 42 minutes was ridiculous. Who was winning the game at halftime? JJ, am I taking crazy pills? Chris, am I taking crazy pills, guys? Is it possible to dominate a game and be losing at halftime? Is that possible? Dominating. He didn't say we were playing better. You could play somewhat better and be down because of a couple of fluke things. He said they were dominating the first 42 minutes. After the first 24, they were losing. In what world is that dominant?
I'm guessing it depends on what your definition of dominant is. And I might have to defend Rich for a second.
Oh, boy.
He might be confusing you and I.
Yes, because you hate the Warriors.
I hate the Warriors.
Yes.
I have made it a fact that I do hate the Warriors. So maybe that's where he got confused.
I don't, like, Rich, I appreciate you listening to the show, sending the text. We love you, my man. But I just, again, when you're on text, now I hate Nick because he doesn't hate the Warriors.
And that wasn't my phone number.
It's a great text. Like, to me, you can't say on a fundamental level that you dominated a game when you were losing at halftime. That it's stupid. I'm not calling Draymond Green stupid. I think he's a highly intelligent person. I think he's great with the volume and the podcast he does. I think he's going to be the next great analyst, frankly. I think he's going to take Chuck's job when Chuck leaves, and he's going to be awesome. But to say what he said, it's stupid to say you dominated a game when you were losing the game at halftime.
The only way I could think of that he was saying it that way was that the Warriors were doing what they wanted to do until the fourth quarter when they just got blown out. That's the only way you could say, like, okay. But even then, it wasn't like they were just like,
right.
Just like, oh, they had it in hand and they had the Celtics the entire time.
When you say dominant, I'm thinking like you were up the entire game from beginning to like until the final 8 minutes. You were up by double digits for most of the game. That's domination.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen domination. The Celtics got dominated in the third quarter. That's dominating. Somebody else texts in, if you only had to play well for 41, 42 minutes, the Kings would have multiple championships. That is a fantastic text as well. Let me get to Steph Curry quickly. So Curry had 21 points in the first quarter. He was 6 of 7 from 3. Watching that, I know Magic Johnson thought it was an indication as to Marcus Smart's bad defense, which was just, I could talk about that another day. Magic stinks as an analyst. But it was like the Celtics didn't know Steph Curry was going to play last night. I mean, that first quarter, he was wide open for almost every single shot he took. Like, nobody was within like 5 to 8 feet of him. He's the best shooter that's ever played the game. It was crazy. In the second through the fourth quarter, he was a different guy. When the Celtics actually played defense and played physical and didn't have communication errors and didn't leave him wide open, he was a different guy. Again, in the first quarter, he was tremendous, 21 points, 6 of 7 from 3. Do you know what he did the second quarter to the fourth quarter last night? He shot 5 of 16 after the first quarter. 5 of 16, 13 points. He only had 3 assists after the first quarter and had 2 turnovers. And what I realized watching the game last night was like how much pressure is going to be on Curry in this series, especially if things happen like they happened last night. Like, if they take away space, the Celtics defense takes away space, and they play Curry physical, and they make it tough on him, and they play smaller, and they switch more like they did in the fourth quarter, I don't think Curry is going to be able to be as free as he was early in the game. Again, he's a great shooter, the best that's ever lived, and he's going to make shots. Don't get it twisted. But if the Celtics make it hard on him, and he's not going 6 of 7 in a quarter, who else is going to step up? Because they need somebody to step up. Jordan Poole was useless last night, minus 19. Worst plus-minus of the night for anybody that played in that game. He has been not good since the Denver series. He's not been the same guy. If Poole is useless, that's an issue. Klay Thompson. Now, I have confidence in Klay more than Poole because Klay's done it for years, but you do have to wonder about Klay's health. You know, how's he feeling? Is he incapable at this point to consistently do it because he's not fully back yet, so he's going to have some clunky nights? And he scored 15 points last night. He shot 6 of 14 from the floor. He was a minus 9. Draymond Green, look, I don't expect Draymond Green to give you offense. but he was especially awful. He was 2 of 12 from the floor, 0 of 4 from 3. Now, the law of averages will tell you Klay will play better. I have confidence that Klay will play better. But again, Jordan Poole has dropped off the earth since the Denver series for the most part. He's been an absolute zero defensively, and he's been very inconsistent, wildly erratic offensively. And if that Jordan Poole continues to show up in this series, Steph's got to pick up even more slack. Or Andrew Wiggins has to give you like 20, 25 a night. Like if Klay can't give it to you every night and Jordan Poole is just out of the mix, the Warriors will be desperate to find somebody, whether it's Wiggins or Porter. Like they have to have somebody else pop. And of course, Steve Kerr doesn't like playing his guys tons of minutes in the playoffs. So, if you have to play Steph like 42, 43 minutes a night, and he's playing against that physical, bigger, stronger, more athletic defense, that's asking a lot of him. They need somebody to stand up and give them consistent scoring, because if it's going to be, the Golden State version of like, a Dallas with Luka, like they need other guys to step up against that Celtics defense. Steph can't do it alone. 916-339-1140 text line. Follow me on Twitter at Nick C Radio. Coming up, who was last night's MVP, and did Golden State actually have a coaching problem?
It's the Nick Cattle Show.
This, I think, speaks to the power of the media and the power of
The Nick Cattle Show.
On Sports 1140 KHTK.
Time to check out Coastside Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. So, look, I think if you're watching that game last night and you don't have a rooting interest, like you're not a Warriors fan or a Celtics fan. I mean, if you're a Celtics fan, you obviously enjoyed the game last night. But I think if you're just a casual NBA fan or you love another NBA team, if you're just, a Kings fan who might not have as much hatred for the Warriors as Chris does, you won last night. I said that to the guys before the show. Like, that game was great for the NBA. If you're a casual fan, you're watching that game, now you feel like you've got to keep watching this series. Like, how can you possibly not watch Game 2 on Sunday after what happened last night? That was a great game for the league. And there was a 3 to 4 minute stretch in that fourth quarter. It was like a heavyweight fight. Both teams were slugging it out. Both teams were making shots. Kevin Durant tweeted about it last night, about how it was just elite level play, and he's right. I tweeted last night, elite level offense on both ends for a good 3 or 4 minutes in that fourth quarter. It was within like a possession or two, and just haymakers were getting thrown back and forth. It was a great game. If you love the NBA, you love basketball, that was a great game. It was dramatic. I mean, it had everything. So who was the MVP of last night's game? I think it comes down to two guys. If we're going to do like MVP by game, last night, individually, game one, who was the MVP? I think it comes down to two guys. It comes down to Al Horford, who finished with 26, 6, and 3. He shot 9 of 12 from the field, 6 of 8 from 3. And if people think that's something that, he'll never do again, I might have some news for you in a little bit. So stay tuned for that. And I think the other guy that you can talk about is Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown finished with 24, 7, and 5. He was a plus 22 on the night. And Jaylen Brown, I thought, had the most impactful individual stretch in this game. Steph Curry had a great stretch in the first quarter, no doubt about that. But having a great stretch in the first versus the fourth, I lean towards the fourth, right? Because that's deciding time. You can come back from a great stretch in the first quarter. You're not going to come back from a great stretch in the fourth. The most crucial individual stretch of that game last night was from Jaylen Brown in the fourth quarter. The Celtics are down double digits. He comes down, he makes a shot. He comes down, he makes a 3. He comes down, he throws a lob pass to Robert Williams for a dunk. Celtics go on like a 7-0 run. Kerr calls a timeout, and now the Celtics have the momentum. That 2 to 3 minute stretch from Brown was critical. So I think it comes down to those two guys. I would lean Horford. I would give Horford the MVP. The 2 big threes that he hit. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, he scored 8 points in a row, I think. He hit the 3 on the right side of the wing. Then he hit the 3 during the break when Tatum kicked it back to him. A dead-on look above the break. I think he knocked that one down. And then it was a timeout by the Celtics, and Tatum drove into the paint and kicked it to Horford for like a 15-footer on the baseline, and he knocked that down. Those shots were just huge. Huge. And if you think Horford is, he can't do this again, you're wrong. I mean, the fact is, Horford already did this. Horford did this in Game 4 against Milwaukee. And that's why I don't lump him together with, the Marcus Smarts and Derek Whites last night, because Horford's a better shooter. He has shot 46% from 3 since the beginning of the postseason, averaging 4.5 threes a game. Taken, not made. And you look back at Game 4 against Milwaukee, the Celtics were down 2-1 against the Bucks. And they were on the precipice of going 3-1, and that's pretty much donezo. And Horford in Game 4 against the Bucks played great defense against Giannis. And here are the numbers. Again, so last night, Horford was 26, 6, and 3. In Game 4 against Milwaukee, he was better. In Game 4 against Milwaukee, he went for 38 and 3. And if you say, well, Nick, I mean, he shot the lights out last night. 9 of 12 from the field, 6 of 8 from 3. He did the same thing against Milwaukee in Game 4. He shot 11 of 14 from the floor and 5 of 7 from 3. So, yeah, that Al Horford has shown up before. And he had another very good game against Milwaukee. So, you know, he shows up. He'll give you a big game. Here was Al Horford last night.
You know, it's one of these things that I've been waiting for this moment, and I know it's different, but I mean, I played in a similar stage in college. You know what I mean? And like, you know, those type of games, I just felt comfortable out here, and I wanted to project that to the group. You know, I wanted to make sure that our guys came out here, played free, understand that this is just a game, and just go out there and have fun.
Nick Cattle Show on a Friday. The other thing that stood out to me last night in the fourth quarter was Steve Kerr versus Ime Udoka. And I thought Udoka outcoached Kerr in the fourth quarter last night, and that did surprise me because, you know, heading into the game and heading into this series, I said to myself, Udoka was outclassed a good amount in the last series against the Heat. I thought Coach Spo outcoached, outclassed Udoka a number of times in that series. If you were to put the check mark next to the coach, Spo got it big time. Going into this series, you know, you're thinking rookie head coach against a guy who's been there and done that before, knows his team really well. And Ime coached circles around him in the fourth quarter. Coached circles around him. And I thought the Celtics made some adjustments in the fourth that Steve Kerr failed to adjust to himself. Here was Udoka last night talking about what the Celtics did differently that quarter.
You know, we started switching more instead of, you know, they were attacking Rob at times with Wiggins. He was a little bit too low. Al was as well. So we got a little bit more aggressive and took away some of their airspace on the threes and tried to get them inside the three-point line and make them beat us there, as well as going with the smaller lineup. So did some pre-switching to keep the bigs off and worked well for us.
Yeah, they went small. You know, they started to switch. The Warriors really struggled with the Celtics switching defense, which should not have been a surprise to them because that's what the Celtics have done a lot this year. They didn't do it much against, they didn't do it as much against Milwaukee or Miami in their series. But if you look in totality, the Celtics are one of the heaviest switching teams in the league. And it was like the Warriors were completely flabbergasted that they started to switch more in the fourth. It was like Kerr was completely unprepared for that. And I also thought he kind of let the rope go a little bit and let the Celtics have, some runs there and could have utilized some timeouts and maybe could have gone to Kerr a little bit earlier than he did in the fourth. I thought Udoka was the better coach in the fourth quarter. Now, of course, it might change. It might change. Kerr might adjust. He might come back, and it's only one game. I'm not changing my pick of the Warriors off of one game. I'm just breaking down what happened last night, and if you look at that fourth quarter, I thought the Celtics coach was better than the Warriors coach. And I don't think the Warriors can afford that to happen often. 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone line is 1-800-920-1140. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick C Radio. You can follow the radio station on Twitter at Sports 1140 KHTK. Is Sunday night a must-win for Golden State? We'll talk about that and more coming up next.
Out with the hot takes and in with the smart takes.
You're a smart guy. You're my favorite talk host here because you say it how it is.
It's the Nick Cattle Show on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Final hour on a Friday, feeling good. Feeling really, really good. Talking NBA Finals, game on last night. Celtics win, dramatic fashion, outscore Golden State 40-16 in the fourth quarter. And I want to start this hour talking about Jason Tatum for a few minutes. And then I want to ask you if Sunday night is a must-win for the Warriors. So Tatum shot 3 of 17 from the floor last night. Woof. Could not throw the ball in the ocean. 3 of 17 from the floor, 1 of 5 from 3. And I thought of all the people listening to the show yesterday that might have been tap dancing at my opinion that I would rather have Tatum than Curry right now. Oh, Curry scored 21 in the first quarter and Tatum shoots 3 of 17. Yes, Chris?
Here comes the Tatum spin.
The Tatum spin. I actually think it helped my point. And it helped my point because my point was Tatum is the better overall player. And, you know, who do you think can impact a game more when they shoot 3 of 17? Can Steph Curry impact the game more shooting 3 of 17? Or can Tatum impact the game more shooting 3 of 17? As a matter of fact, I think it's pretty apt. When you look at what happened last night, Steph Curry from quarters 2 through 4 shot 5 of 16. Very similar to what Tatum did, right? Meanwhile, while Curry was shooting 5 of 16, he had like 3 assists and 2 turnovers. While Tatum was shooting 3 of 17, he had 13 assists and 2 turnovers. While Tatum was shooting 3 of 17, he was still playing very good defense. Curry, not so much. So I think he actually helped my point last night. But that is besides the point. I want to talk about Tatum because what you saw last night was his maturation. Him becoming a better player. And it might sound weird. When the guy shoots 3 of 17, you go, wait, Nick, that's an example of him becoming a better player? Yes. Because 6 months ago, a year ago, if Tatum shoots 3 of 17 from the floor, game's over. Game's over. Team loses. He continues to play worse as the game goes on. He starts to press. He starts to take bad shots late. He doesn't trust his teammates. It becomes all about him, and the team falls apart because he fell apart. So what you saw last night was the maturation process. It's a 24-year-old guy who's figuring out, okay, how can I impact the game if I'm playing, if I'm shooting awful? If I'm shooting awful from the field, what can I do to help my team? 6 months ago, a year ago, Tatum would not have known that answer. He would have been lost. Last night, he wasn't. He helped his team win. He was a plus 16 when he was on the floor, even though he shot 3 of 17. That's the third highest plus-minus of the night last night. So he's a different guy. And because he's a different guy, because he's adapted, he's adjusted, he's learned, he's gotten better at realizing he might not have to be the show every night, that if somebody else has it cooking, get him the basketball. Don't always just go into ISO and try to go into your bag. Find a teammate who's open. He has slowly figured that out throughout the season, and as he has gotten better with that, I don't think it's a coincidence that the Celtics got better. Because their leader started to figure out, oh, it's about the other guys too. Like if I don't have to always be the show. And I thought last night in the postgame, what Tatum said, I don't know if anybody could handle it better when you're a guy who, everybody's watching and you were first team All-NBA and the world is expected of you and you shoot 3 of 17, you're going to face the question of like, well, Jason, you shot 3 of 17. Here's what Tatum said.
JB played big. Al, Peyton, D. White, those guys made big shots, timely shots as well. And we won, right? I had a bad shooting night. I just tried to impact the game in other ways. We're in the championship. We're in the finals. All I was worried about was trying to get a win. and we did. And that's all that matters at this point. So, I don't expect to shoot that bad again, but if it means we keep winning, I'll take it.
Nick Cattle Show on a Friday, and that's what separates certain players, right? Like, what do you do to impact the game if you're not shooting well? Can you find ways to help your team win? Do you let your bad shooting get in the way of your defense, for example? Tatum didn't. Do you force the issue when it's late in the game and it's the finals and the game's within a couple of possessions? Do you try to go into a double team and do something spectacular? Or do you draw the double team and kick it to Marcus Smart because Smart's wide open? And even though Smart missed 5 straight shots against Miami in clutch time in Game 7, you still trust the pass. You still trust the teammate, and you say, I'm going to pass it to the open guy. We'll see if he's going to make a shot. It reminds me of when LeBron started. I remember doing a radio show when LeBron was really young. It had to be like 04 or whatever. I don't know if you guys remember the shot, but he was in Cleveland, and it was at the end of a playoff game, and he drove and he kicked it to Kyle Korver for a wide open 3. And everybody yelled at LeBron. And I was on the radio, one of the first shows I ever did publicly, talking into a microphone. And I stood up for LeBron because I said LeBron made the right basketball play. If he drives into traffic and his shot gets blocked, he's called for an offensive foul, he throws up a wild shot, then we all sit there and go, man, he had a wide open teammate in the corner in Korver. Korver's one of the better three-point shooters. What's he doing? I thought it was the right basketball play. And so in the bigger moments, yes, you want the superstars to take over. But you don't want the superstars to take over to the point where it's like me. I'm going 1-on-2, I'm going 1-on-3. Because at a certain point, you got to say, they're doubling me, they're blitzing me. A shot against 2 guys that I can take is not as good of a shot as a guy who's wide open. So it's that learning process. And all players go through it. LeBron was a freak because LeBron had it like right away. LeBron's basketball IQ was through the roof at like 15. He knew where to go with the ball, when to go with it, why to go there. Not everybody's like that. Not everybody's at that level. And it's that learning process. Let's jump to the Warriors and whether or not Sunday night's a must-win game. I'm so used to these games being like every other night. Game 2, Sunday night. Verlad, do you think Sunday night is a must-win for the Warriors?
No.
Okay. JJ, do you think?
No.
I agree with you guys. I was listening to Dave this morning, and he said, you get down 2-0, and then Celtics only have to get 1 in Boston, and then you got to eventually win 3 in a row. And I don't see the Warriors, even though they might be a better team, but winning 3 in a row against that team, I wouldn't say it's a must-win. And that's why, I'm not moving away from my Warriors pick because of last night's game. That's foolish. 7-game series. Yeah, I said I thought the series would go 7. I'm not moving away from making my pick that I made last night. That's weak. If I came into the studio, I was like, Celtics are going to win now. It's stupid. I'm not going to – 1 game. It's 1 game. So first,
I actually changed my pick to the Celtics.
Oh, did you? Sorry, Chris. I just called you stupid in an indirect way.
I'll change it.
I'm your boss. I can get in trouble for that too, in a way, right? I'm a manager. That's not.
No,
good.
as of right now, you're just a host of a radio station, so you're technically
okay.
Not my
Good.
boss.
That's right. It's 3-6. I'm safe. JJ's writing notes in there. He's like, Nick called Chris stupid in an indirect way. 5:08 Friday, June 3rd, 2022. He's getting the email ready.
Couldn't even type that fast.
Must win, not yet. Breaking news. Golden State's really good. Both of these teams are really good at what they do. You don't get to the finals unless you're good. If you lose the first game of a series, and Rick Bucher said it yesterday, and I'm sorry I brought his name up on the air for some of you, but, he said yesterday
I definitely put that in the records.
But he said, whoever wins game 1 of the finals wins 70% of the time. And look, maybe it holds up and maybe the Celtics do win the series. But do I look at that and say, oh, it's over? Last night's game, that's it? It's done? Golden State's really good. Golden State has lots of experience. Golden State has one of the best players of all time on their team. They have one of the best shooters of all time on their team. They got a guy, Klay Thompson, You think he's going to tap out after what he's been through the last couple of years and how he came back? He's not tapping out. You think Iguodala's tapping out? No. And like I said yesterday when I talked about this series, the reason why I picked Golden State is because the Celtics have trouble executing for 48 minutes. And they won the game last night, but when we walked into the fourth quarter, I looked like a genius, didn't I? Because that third quarter was what I talk about. The Celtics will have those quarters. They will have those quarters that will lose games. They've done it every step of the way outside of Brooklyn because obviously they swept them. Against Milwaukee, against Miami, they can outscore you by 15. They can get bludgeoned by 15. Look at what happened last night. There's no better example. They were embarrassed in the third quarter, and then they come out and they outscore the Warriors by 24 in the fourth. I said this to the guys before the show. Like, I would not be surprised at all. I might even be more surprised if this didn't happen. I would not be surprised whatsoever if on Sunday night the Celtics go out there and play the first quarter like we got this thing won, and they get steamrolled. I would not. I'm expecting it. Like, if the Warriors are up like 35-15 at the end of the first quarter on Sunday, I would be the least surprised person in the state of California. So, because of the seas being so hot and cold at times, I can't sit there and say, oh, yeah, that's it. They won game one. Series over. Like, they could easily lose the next three. From quarter to quarter, game to game. I was texting with a buddy who's in the radio business last night. We were texting back and forth. And, he's talking about, the Celtics could win this game. I said, sure, they could win this game. But they could also come out of this timeout and give up a 15-0 run. They can give up a 10-0 run. And I texted him when the game was over. He said, wow, that was crazy. Like, that fourth quarter was nuts. And I believe this. The Celtics at their best are the best team in the NBA. Because they're above average offensively, and they are at another level defensively. When they play their best, they're the best team in the league. But when they play their worst, they are literally one of the worst teams in the league. This is a team that lost to the Timberwolves in the regular season when the Timberwolves sat 4 of their 5 starters. And they got beat bad, and the Celtics were healthy. When they play their worst, when they play bad, they're awful. When they play very good, you saw it in the fourth quarter. Those swings are as dramatic as I can remember from a team that's made the finals. Like, it's like predictable, but it's unpredictable. Because you can predict it's going to happen, but you can't predict when it's going to happen. By the way, the Celtics are 5-4 at home. You telling me the Warriors can't win 1 or 2 games in Boston? Of course they can. Milwaukee did it. Miami did it. Both those teams won multiple games in Boston. You tell me Golden State can't do it? Like, if this ends up 3-2 and you're going into game 6 with, let's say the Celtics are up, 3-2. You're telling me Golden State can't win the final 2 games of the series? They can't steal one in Boston and then come back and win a game 7 in front of their home crowd? Yeah, not a must-win on Sunday night. 916-339-1140. The text line, phone line is 1-800-920-1140. I remind you, KHTK's draft coverage, NBA draft coverage brought to you by Power Business Technology. Visit them online at powercopiers.com. In 90 seconds, there's a whole lot of bleep we missed this week. Nick Cattle Show on a Friday. We missed a lot this week. The A's schedule. By the way, we have one show next week. I mean, what the hell's happening here? We'll be on Monday, and then you guys can take it from here. Do what you do. Missed a lot, and this is going to be pretty much an all NFL, except for one special edition, not edition, edition, to the bleep we missed. An all NFL version. JJ, let's get to it.
Yeah, there was a little bit of TED Talk post the match, the golf exhibition between the four quarterbacks a couple of days ago, Nick. Aaron Rodgers spoke about retirement yet again, this time telling Ernie Johnson of TNT how much he thinks about it.
Oh, I think about it all the time. I mean, I resonate with what Tom said about the mindset of 55-45. You know, when you commit, you're 100%. But the older you get, the interests change and the grind, I think, wears on you a little bit more. And the football part's the easy part. That's the joy. It's the other stuff that wears on you and makes you think about life after football. Tommy obviously set the bar so high with playing so many years, but I can definitely see the end coming.
Mr. Cattles, your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers contemplating retirement almost daily?
Green Bay, you accepted this life. Like, you have accepted this into your life. You know, this is what you get with Aaron. At any moment, he's going to talk about it. He's going to be asked about it. He's going to say, yeah, I think about it every day. I could retire tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
And people thought that Brett Favre didn't teach Aaron Rodgers anything.
Yeah. Oh, he learned. He learned from the best, Chris. And I just thought of Brian Gutekunst when I heard this. If you don't know who he is, he's the GM of the Packers. And I just thought about poor Brian Gutekunst because, like, you got to deal with a half-in, half-out QB1. Like, your whole franchise relies on this guy, and he's like, hey, you know, sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Things happen. And they're stuck with Jordan Love, by the way. Like, here's the tough thing. Jordan Love is he in his third year or fourth year? I always forget. It's third, right? I think it's his third season. So let's say at the end of this year, Rodgers calls it quits. The Packers have like 1 year to make the decision whether or not to ride or die with Jordan Love, which is a very difficult thing. So the way he's handled it, they're kind of stuck with that next step. Anyway, moving on.
Well, we move on to another quarterback. We continue the quarterback talk and move on to Baltimore Ravens. Offensive coordinator Greg Roman, who in a press conference yesterday stayed away from talking about the Lamar situation, actually, when it came to the contract. But he did have something to say about the new offensive schemes and where Jackson may fit, Nick.
Definitely think we kind of went back and changed some things and added some things. There's definitely some things that, that are new that we haven't done.
Say things again.
There's also a bunch of things that he's pretty well adjusted to. So probably 80% stuff he knows, 20% stuff that, we look forward to working on.
I followed up and asked, was there anything you took from that?
If Roman's going to tell me he's going to dramatically change his offense and they're all of a sudden going to become a throwing football team, I need to see it to believe it.
Yes.
Like, Greg Roman's history is not that. And, Lamar Jackson is so polarizing. I can't tell you how many battles I got in on the radio in Virginia Beach when I was out on the East Coast. How many people thought and called me like a Lamar Jackson hater. I enjoy and I love Lamar Jackson. I think he seems to be a great dude, and he's very down to earth, and I think he's a really good leader. But he has not proven to be a consistent pocket passer in the NFL. Like, that's a fact. He's shown flashes. He's had these great games. But until he proves that, this team is not going to win a championship. They've won one playoff game with him as their quarterback. Now, I will also say, which is something that a lot of people who think I hate on LJ, that like they kind of conveniently omit. I'm not telling you it's all on Lamar Jackson. I'm not blaming him for his lack of consistency of being a pocket passer. I blame Greg Roman. Like, it's like this blame pie. Some of it is on Jackson because he's not the most accurate guy at all times, especially downfield. But it's Greg Roman's offense and his stubbornness. It's John Harbaugh and the front office doubling down on offensive line, and we're going to be a run downhill team. And it's, the lack of wide receivers who have been, they've been inconsistent. You've got Miles Boykin, who was cut. Hollywood Brown is now out in Arizona. I love Rashad Bateman. I watched him in Minnesota. I think he's going to be really good. But, again, it's not all on Jackson. But until he becomes a consistent pocket passer and until his offensive coordinator calls games and allows him the chance to be that consistent pocket passer, it's going to be the same old Ravens. You got to play top-notch defense. Hopefully you run the ball great. Hopefully your tight end shows up in Mark Andrews every once in a while. And that has not been a recipe for success for them. One playoff win. Simple as that. And their offense, by the way, averages like 15 points a game with Jackson as the quarterback in the playoffs. So they not only are 1-4, their offense has been terrible in totality in the postseason with Jackson as quarterback and Roman as OC.
I'll believe it when I see it with the Greg Roman offense, even his days back to the 49ers.
Yep.
He was definitely 3 yards in a cloud of smoke. We move on to the Raiders Pro Bowl tight end Darren Waller, who signed a 4-year, $29.8 million deal in 2021, $10 million of that being guaranteed. Woo! He appeared on the Ross Tucker Show this week and was asked about him being underpaid as one of the leading players at his position. This is what he had to say, Nick.
My agent is working on that. I understand it, but I know if I, focus on it too much, it could take away from, my job and learning a new system and just continue to try to elevate and take care of my body in the right way. Try to focus on those things and let my agent handle that. And when decisions need to be made, decisions need to be made.
Big money is in the air, Mr. Cattles. Your thoughts?
I would be in no hurry if I were the Raiders. He's got 2 years left, $12.5 million. He's 30 years old. I think Vegas has all the leverage in this. I would not be in a rush. I think Waller's really good, and I think Waller, I'm going to talk about this eventually. It's been like on my sheet of things to talk about for 2 months. But the difference of Waller with Josh McDaniels, I think it's going to pay dividends for the Raiders offense. And with Adams being added to the mix. All right, we got to get to it. So that's a quick one on Waller. We got to get to the next one.
The National Spelling Bee is something that has been around for 97 years.
Let's get it.
Having begun in 1925, there's been so many different incredible feats and moments during the competition. But, Nick, this extraordinary exhibition by a young lady is truly banana. Let's take a listen.
Your first word is Spielbone.
Spealbone.
Whoa.
Phreatophyte.
Threatophyte.
Whoa.
Gaidiang.
Gaydiang.
Parison.
Parison.
Exemer.
Eximer.
Tokia.
Toquilla.
Whoa.
Glaucus.
That was nuts.
Glochis.
Epaulement.
Epaulement.
Cara.
This is unbelievable.
Chara.
Maieutic.
Maieutic.
Calicothere.
Chalicothere.
Teosinti.
Teosinte.
Cicerari.
Sicrary.
She took too long on that one.
Akari.
Akore.
Mike Coster.
Buachol.
Bouchol.
I don't even know what he said. Buachol.
Saccharos.
Sounded like he had a phlegm.
Scharos.
Talisai.
Talisy.
Vesicate.
Besicate.
Semet.
Semet.
Ding.
Corepiscopus.
Corepiscopus. Is that a robot or a dude?
Nipophia. Nifophia.
Kniphophia.
Is that a Sam I Am rhyme? What is
Hottish.
Malbrook.
Malbruck.
Ornithorhynchus.
Ornithorhynchus.
What?
Nyandabai.
Nandubay.
Moorhen.
Moorhen.
Oh, please, that one. There you go, yeah. Speed and accuracy.
I've never heard of any of those words.
Dude, you want to talk about confidence? Like, obviously, she, trained and practiced with a certain pace, right? So, she's just confident in that. So, she's got to do it that quick because it's just how it's a rhythm. It's like being a basketball player, I guess. She got that rhythm. Usually, you see these spelling bees, and it's car. C-A.
Can you use it in a sentence?
Can you use it in a sentence?
Origin, please.
C-A. Give me the word. Spell it. But she was like, CR. Next. Lightning quick. She won? Did she win? Do we know if she...
a test a test run to get on the actual competition.
Oh, so we're going to get this again.
Oh yeah, they're just in the beginning of stages.
Okay, well
of
we now have to track her because we gotta make sure we don't miss her because that is unbelievable. So there you go, the bleep we missed. She did not miss any letters. She was dang good.
Or physical.
Well, what's bad is like if she misspelled them, I have no idea.
One of them sounded like the guy just coughed up. He was like, and she's like, bing.
There's like 7 Ks in that word.
With the Z.
That's K. Got it. Ding. Quite impressive. That guy is like Captain Monotone. Imagine him at like a, can I have a Bud Light, please? I want my eggs sunny side up. Like he just like one tone. Will Ferrell. Like you ever see the SNL character where he's got like monotone thing and he can't.
I can't control the level of my voice.
Chris knows what I'm talking about. The latest on a crucial piece to the Niners puzzle coming up next.
Live and local. Up front and opinionated. It's the Nick Cattle Show right here on the King of Sacramento Sports Talk. Sports 1140 KHTK.
All right, fellas, we're going to finish strong today. We're going to finish strong on a Friday. I know my man JJ is thinking about his next beautiful that he can get. Not woman.
Can't wait. I wish, man. I wish.
JJ taught me all about the drink Beautiful when we were doing the NFL draft party. No, I did not have the foggiest what that was. And I was the one that had to go to the bartender and ask for it. Which is kind of awkward because you're like, can I get a Beautiful? And at first, if she doesn't know the drink, she's like, you hitting on me? Like, no, it's a drink, I swear.
Weren't you with the wifey, though?
I was, but you don't know nowadays, man. Swinging couples, all
Especially
sorts
in Roseville.
All sorts of stuff happening, man. So I was like, hey, look, it's a drink. She's like, I have no idea what that is, sir. I said, neither do I. We got something in common. She said, you hitting on me again? I said, no, I just want a drink. It's like, not even for me. And it was real simple. The Hennessy and Grand Marnier, right? I called it Hypnotic today.
Yeah, no, that's its own liquor. Stands alone, man. It's blue. Hypnotic is blue. You can't miss
I know. It's one of those. It was one of those H's. One of those H's. We got it done though. She said, "Is it chilled?" Looked at her. I said, I just told you I don't know what the drink is. So I had to go back outside. At first, she was like, I don't think we got it. And then I had to go back to JJ and say, I don't think they have it. And so he ordered something else. I think he was going to order a Stella, if I remember correctly. And I was going to go back in there and get him a Stella. And then she was like, I think I found it. And then so I had to go back out to JJ and say, is it Hennessy and Grand Marnier? He's like, yeah, okay. Went back in. She's like, is it chilled? I'm like, I'm running back and forth like a dog. It's like JJ's throwing the tennis ball. I'm chasing it coming back. I had to go back outside. JJ, is it chilled? No, just neat. All right. Had to go back in. No, it's not chilled.
Look, I would have thought at this point, because you are a bar owner yourself,
yes,
that you would have had it taken care of. I was surprised that you guys aren't offering Beautifuls at the Cattle's Cave.
Again, see, you're going to get us in trouble because of the name of the drink. That does not sound good. If I'm offering Beautifuls at the Cattle's Cave, going to get in a lot of trouble. Let's just move on quickly.
See, I'm the easy one. Chris, what do you want? Bourbon, neat.
There you go. There you go. I'm easy too. I just I'm a strictly beer guy. Like I don't mess around with drinks and mixed drinks, and every once in a while I've had like one of the like fruity tropical things that my wife will get, and she's like, can't try it, but I'm pretty much 99% a beer guy.
Sometimes it's like too sweet.
Yeah,
like,
I get through like a half of it and gotta go. All right, so quickly, let's update people on Deebo Samuel, what's happening with him and the Niners. Here was John Lynch on Wednesday night.
One of the questions I get is, will Deebo be with the 49ers this season? I will ask you, will Deebo Samuel definitely be with the 49ers this season?
Well, we haven't traded him, and I've used the word fool. I'd be a fool to trade him, so no. And so, yes, I mean, he'll be a part of it.
Yay! We're all clapping. Said he'd be a fool if he traded him. So yes, Deebo's gonna be a Niner. Look, it's not surprising because we've talked about the timing of this. We just talked about the draft night and me getting JJ his drink. Draft night, we knew, like, once Deebo wasn't traded, we had a pretty good feeling, like, all right, it's very unlikely he's going to be gone because now you don't know what you're going to get if you trade for a first-round pick. You don't know how good that team's going to be with him, and the teams that needed wide receivers addressed the position. I just wonder how tough is Deebo going to make it? Like, that's still the question I have. Is he going to make this tough? Is he going to hold out throughout camp? Is he going to hold out through the preseason? Is he going to continue to make noise every once in a while? Because, Trey Lance, he's getting tested early, right? I mean, he had to deal with all the Jimmy G stuff last year. He had to deal with all of it this offseason. Jimmy's still on the roster. He has to deal with drama with his wide receiver one. We have a lot of questions about the interior offensive line that only became more important yesterday when Alex Mack retired. There's just a lot, like, there's a lot of noise. He's got to deal with a lot. This is not necessarily when you talk about circumstances and certain things happening here, not the cleanest beginning for Trey Lance. And, hopefully that changes. He's getting tested early. Good news is if he passes the test, that's really good news for Niners and Niners fans. Thanks to Chris. Thanks to JJ. Great job, fellas. Everybody have a good weekend. Be safe, be good, be healthy. Don't do anything that Chris Rillard wouldn't do. Okay? Make sure you stay in the lane. You're all right. Everything's good. Till Monday, Nick Cattle Show, Sports 1140 KHTK.